And good morning. Thank you for joining us on Unfiltered Vision News, where we are bringing wow, I can't even get through my lines. And where we are bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And thank you so much, Sean AI, for reposting the stream this morning. I'm just looking forward to everybody joining us. So, yeah, it's been interesting. As he totally dropped the F bomb yesterday, and Mike dropped and just walked out. He was just like, nope, they just don't know what they're doing, and just walked off. He was like, I'm just tired of this, and I don't blame him for being tired and just exhausted with what's happening, and it's really sad. You know, people really they want destruction so bad that they are just willing to kill all of us, right? It's like, if I can't have the power, then we'll just destroy everything. What is wrong with you? Like, really? Like, what is really wrong with you? You really just want to kill us all, and then maybe you'll feel better. Like, you won't be feeling better because you're gonna die with the rest of us. Like, I don't get it. At a certain juncture, let it go. You lost, bro. You lost, and you're gonna have to figure out how to get your party back together. But there are still people that want to infiltrate, and they want to try to dismantle what's happening in our country right now, and it's really sad. It truly, truly is sad. I don't know if any of you guys feel like that out there, but I do. I really, it's really, getting to the point where, is this what we should be doing? And of course, we're going to get into the news on all sides. And of course, we're going to start with the headlines, but there's one headline I want to drop and go to before I get into the top headline, and that's this. The House voting down the Trump impeachment over the Iran strikes. Now, everybody has known and discussed that, there have been strikes done. There have even been strikes done by Obama and even other presidents, right? But that does not necessarily mean we're at war, right? Just because a strike is being done. Now, the war that has been going on has been between Israel and Iran as of late, right? And I want to say that's been going on for almost 2 years now. So we got that. And then, there was some bombing that happened in Qatar. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're at war with Qatar. There were some airstrikes that were actually targeted to US bases that were in Qatar. So I'm like, okay, but that doesn't make us a part of the war if we are sending in a strike. And so this is what leads us to this wonderful article here. And it says President Trump publicly criticized Alexandro Ocasio Cortez, the Democrat from New York, for calling for his impeachment on Tuesday as letters of impeachment filed by Representative Al Green from Texas over Trump's strikes on Iran failed in a House vote. So they still brought it, and they brought it to a direct vote. Now, here's the details. Trump referred to Ocasio Cortez as one of the dumbest people in Congress. Ouch. The president also criticized Representative Jasmine Crockett, Representative Ilhan Omar. Ocasio Cortez had labeled the strikes a grave violation of the Constitution and congressional war powers. Green's attempt at impeachment was defeated by a vote of 344 to 79. That means there were Democrats that voted not to impeach Donald Trump. Like, I think their party is splitting some because they're just tired of the nonsense, right? They just want to get the work done. And at this rate, if individuals like Miss Cortez continues in her, orange man bad mode, she's going to find herself ousted. See, the last person that ran, I forget what the gentleman's name was, but I guess he was like a former principal or teacher or something. He got primaried out. He is not in the house right now. Okay. There's somebody else there that's a freshman in his district because people were sick of it then, and they're going to be more sick of it now. And it's almost like it's one of those things. Well, if you keep going down this road, the individuals that he listed, they're going to find themselves out of the house. And it's interesting because they just really don't think they can be voted out, that people are just going to willingly vote them in. People are not going to willingly vote you back in. It's not going to happen. There are more people that are discouraged than are encouraged. Just saying. So in his post, Trump stated the Democrats aren't used to winning, and she can't stand the concept of our country being successful again. He added that Democrats should go ahead and try impeaching me again. Make my day. Like he's on that Clint Eastwood stuff right now. Really? Make my day? Really, sir? Okay. So, for context, Trump seems to have violated the Congressional War Powers Act, which says the collective judgment of both the Congress and president will apply the introduction of the United States Armed Forces into hostiles. Congress hasn't approved of the strikes. Trump isn't the first president to authorize military action without congressional approval. Former President Joe Biden in January 2024 ordered strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen following attacks on ships in the Red Sea, and President Barack Obama in 2012 attacked Libya and Pakistan. So this is how the media covered it. Mediatate, which leans left bias, focused on the intensity of Trump's comments, referring to his social media posts as a wild rant, where the New York Post, that leans right, highlighted Trump's boldness in his comments with the headline suggesting he was daring Democrats to impeach him. The article also emphasized Trump's criticism of other Democratic representatives, including Omar and Crockett. Newsweek, which is center, focused on the fact that Trump issued a warning to Ocasio-Cortez in response to her call for his impeachment. And I think it's very silly, right, that they're trying to call for an impeachment right now. And see, here's the whole thing with the War Powers Act. He was not getting us into war. Okay. That's the thing. We weren't going into war. Sending over airstrikes isn't putting us into war. It is not a declaration of war. That's what the War Powers Act does. The War Powers Act actually makes sure that there is financial congressional oversight, right? And that as we go into war, that we are able to facilitate it. We're not at war. Iran and Israel are, and that's where we're trying to get the ceasefire. But the strikes do not put us at war. The strikes were to dismantle. Totally different things. Two totally different things. Now, should our presidents just run around, you know what I mean, attacking other people? No, but there was a reason for the strikes when the strikes happened, like in the instance of President Joe Biden, right? He ordered strikes on the Houthi targets in Yemen, okay? Attack because they were attacking the ships, our ships in the Red Sea. There was an attack in Iran that President Trump just did to dismantle their nuclear facility. It was very specific, okay? Very specific and targeted. And it actually did not require any armed forces in the sense of a complete military arsenal, ground and air. It was only in the air that they bombed it. They probably used drones to bomb it, and that was it. Done, over. And now Iran and Israel are back at the table talking. So, it's sad that we do have members of Congress that are using they're getting into this emotionally, and it's their personal emotions. It has nothing to do with representing their constituents. Did your constituents press you to do this? I highly doubt they did, Ocasio-Cortez. I highly doubt your constituents did that. But what they do want is they do want illegals out of New York. That's what they want because there are a lot of legal immigrants in New York, right? And they don't want illegal immigrants there. Why aren't you focused on that, right? Why aren't you focused on the issues in your district? Because, see, that's why you're in Congress. You're in Congress to do a job for your district, to be a representative for your district. That's your job. And I think this is sad because I think it happens on both sides, Republican and Democrat. They just forget once they get into these seats who they are actually representing. Okay. You are no longer representing your own personal feelings. You are representing the people in your district who voted for you and sent you to Washington. So this is a person right here. Yes, I'm putting my little cursor on her. She does not need to go back to Washington because she doesn't care. She doesn't care about her district. She does not care about the Constitution. Obviously, I need you to read more. Appreciate you. And I need you to read some other policies that Congress has actually put in place in regards to presidential powers for presidents, what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, and how they don't have to have a whole meeting with Congress to do it. Okay. Yeah. It's that part. Like at this juncture with this individual, Miss Cortez, I need her gone. She is nothing but a distraction and she does not care about this country. So people in New York, her, she doesn't get voted back in. Okay. No, we're shutting that down on this show. We're just shutting it down. We're just going to tell you people who you should and should not vote for. She's not one to vote for. So now let's get back to some more of this international news. So now ISIS affiliate kills 25 Christians in Syria church bombing. Now this is very sad because there are Christian churches in Syria and they are predominantly Muslim areas. And this brings me to, things that are happening here in the United States. They've talked about sleeper cells, Iranian sleeper cells. And there's also the video that I played a couple, was that Monday? Not on this program, but on another program that I was on, Let the Truth Be Told with Pastor Laurie. And there was a gentleman, and he was talking about how they want to, how they are taking over Christian churches here in the United States, and they're turning them into mosques. And their whole motivation is because that Christians went over to the Muslim country and tore down their mosque and built churches. Right? Now, I don't know if I didn't say it on this program, but I said it on Pastor Laurie's program. I really do think, and I would have to look this up, but I really think that there were probably Muslims who converted to Christianity and they tore down those mosques or converted those mosques to Christian churches, right? That could have happened. But interestingly enough, it's like, okay, you're going to return the favor by converting it into a mosque. Like, I don't know. I know some people that are Muslim and they're not violent. So I find it very fascinating to see those Muslims that are very violent right? And they want to live under Sharia law, which is a completely different law from our Constitution, by the way. It has nothing to do with our Constitution, but they are governing laws that are in opposition. So to me, you're just a treasonous cell, and you can be deported. Just know, just know, if you are a naturalized citizen, if you're naturalized and you are committing treason in that way, because it makes you an enemy, right? And if others are giving you aid and comfort, and you're giving aid and comfort to people that are here to destroy our country, we have every right to remove you. Every right. Just because somebody's naturalized does not make them safe. See, I'm not a naturalized citizen. I am a born American. Period. I am not shaking in my boots like some of these other people out here. Yeah. So, an ISIS splinter cell claimed responsibility for the bombing of a Greek Orthodox church in Syria on Sunday that killed 25 and injured 63 others. Now, when I see this whole splinter cell thing, this spells CIA to me. That's what that means. That means that it's more than likely our own government involved in some kind of way making this happen, because they've got to stir up controversy. They have to continue to stir the pot, because here's the thing: why now? Why now? Really? Syria? Makes no sense. It makes no sense. But here we are. So a suicide bomber opened fire on the Greek Orthodox Church of the Prophet Elias in Damascus, Dwellia neighborhood during a Sunday evening service before denoting, I'm sorry, de, detain, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with this word, before detonating, there we go, an explosive vest, according to Syria's interior ministry. The ministry initially named ISIS as the suspected culprit, and on Tuesday, the ISIS splinter group, Syria Ansar al-Sunni Brigade of Sunni supporters, claimed responsibility. Yeah, that's why I said this is probably CIA. I'm like, yeah, this is not organic. It's more than likely us. And that's so sad. And I'm just like, yeah, it's probably us. That's my opinion. So the bombing was Syria's first major attack in years and comes months after the December coup of former President Bashar al-Assad, as the country's interim Islamist president Ahmed al-Sharaa struggles to unite the country. In March, hundreds of civilians in western Syria, including religious minorities like Alawites and Christians, were killed in sectarian killings and clashes. Yeah, because Muslims hate Christians. They don't want to live at peace with anybody. Like, and that's my thing. It's like, I know people that are Muslim that practice but they're not trying to kill other people. But in the Middle East, those Muslims that practice, all you want is death and destruction. And some of you are over here in the United States, and I want you deported. I want every single one of you rounded up and sent back to whatever country you need to go back to, whether that's Pakistan, I don't care. But I don't want you here in our country making life more difficult for citizens here. We are free here. Okay? We don't want to live under any type of laws that don't give us freedom. And, laws and policies that do infringe upon our freedom, we want them gone. Everybody went through COVID. Now I'm going to say it, COVID. Everybody went through it and nobody liked it. being told what to do, where you can go, who you can be with, who you can't be with, what you can do outside, what you can do inside. It was slavery. Nobody wants that. But if that's what you want for your particular religion, that's totally fine. You're just not going to do it here on this soil. That's all I'm saying. You got to go somewhere with that. Nobody wants that here. If that's what you want, fine. Leave. Because no one wants that here. Just saying. So Syrian Interior Ministry spokesman Nouradine al-Baba appeared to place blame on ISIS and the remnants of Assad's government and said the security of places of worship is a red line. Syria's foreign ministry called it a desperate attempt to undermine national coexistence and to destabilize the country. U.S. Ambassador to Turkey and Special Envoy for Syria, Tom Barak, wrote on X, "We continue to support the Syrian government as it fights against those who are seeking to create instability and fear in their country and the border region." And this is how the media covered it. Most outlets covered the news shortly after it broke on Sunday, highlighting that the Syrian government suspected ISIS was behind the attack. So DW, which is center biased, reported on Tuesday that an ISIS cell officially claimed responsibility on Tuesday, though most media outlets did not cover this development. Yeah, again, I think it's CIA related. I really do. They need destabilization in this region right now with everything else that's going on between Iran, Qatar, and Israel. So I don't think it's organic or as organic as they're trying to make it. I should say that. And that brings us to this. So socialist Zorhan Mamdani wins New York's Democratic mayoral primary. I think everybody saw him winning this because there was no way Cuomo was going to get the nod. There was just no way. It's like, how do you go from governor to wanting to be mayor? Like, were you just there to make sure that this person was propped up? Now, this is an individual that wants ICE abolished. Okay. This is an individual that is okay with illegal immigration. All right. So if you have this person as the mayor of New York, it's going to be completely lawless. Oh, good morning. Thanks so much for joining this morning. Good morning. Good morning. And I did say good morning to Sean AI, who's our filmmaker here on X. Definitely check out his platform. He's got some good stuff going on there. Thank you for restreaming the post. But yeah, this person, and of course they claim to be, they're gonna do what's best for the citizens in New York. No, he's not. No, he's not. This is the same person, and I'll have to find the video. I probably won't be able to find it now, but there is a video of him yelling at the ICE agents who had every right to detain someone after a hearing to deport them. They got their due process. They were still found guilty to leave the country, and ICE is doing their job. And this gentleman's yelling, "Tom Homan, you're disgusting," or whatever he was saying. And I'm like, wait a minute. You want to be the mayor. You want to be the mayor of New York. When New Yorkers are sick and tired of illegal immigration, they really are. They don't want a sanctuary city. They do not want a sanctuary state. The citizens of New York are exhausted. They are exhausted. But here you are. Here you are. So New York State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, a 33-year-old socialist born in Uganda, won New York City's Democratic mayoral primary on Tuesday, defeating former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Now, so the first issue I have is he was born in Uganda. Now, he's naturalized here, but he was born in Uganda. So his allegiance is not to this country. It just isn't. Now, a lot of people might get upset about that out there hearing me say that. They're like, well, obviously he's a citizen now and he's able to run. And there needs to be laws. If you are not a born citizen, not naturalized, yeah, and it would make a whole bunch of slim pickings in this country for who could run for office, right? Because if you're naturalized, you shouldn't be able to run for office, in my opinion. If you were born in another country, like Ilhan Omar should not be in Congress, period. Her allegiance is to Somalia. It's not to the United States. It isn't. She's been caught, and she wasn't caught directly on camera, but she did say in an interview that, yes, she was discussing with people how to deal with ICE. Allegedly, she said that she was telling them how to evade ICE, but it wasn't caught on camera, her directly saying it, right? So because it was not caught on camera for her, directly telling people what to do, creates a loophole. And she's still in Congress. Now, there's some other crimes that she has committed, but what I'm saying is her allegiance is not to this country. It isn't. He shouldn't be in office. There's a whole bunch of people in office that should not be in the places that they sit because their allegiance is not to this country. Their allegiance is to a foreign country. We don't need people like this. Now, I do have a candidate that's going to be running for New York. Hopefully, she'll be able to join me later on in the program, and I'm going to, bring her up so you guys can hear from her and hear her views. And she's running for mayor of New York, but we need somebody else to run. We really, really do. So according to the Associated Press, that's left bias, with 93% of the vote counted, Mamdani won 43.5% of the vote, which is roughly 432,000 raw votes, followed by Cuomo's 36.4%, 362,000. City Comptroller Brad Lander was in third place with 11.3%. Now that's interesting. He's the comptroller. Okay. The other person's an assemblyman. Okay, but I'm like, you couldn't pull this out, bro? Really? Over somebody who's a socialist and he labels himself a socialist? What? Mamdani is advocated for things such as free public transit, universal child care, rent freezes, a city-run grocery store, which actually means a government-run grocery store for all of those out there. Yeah. Paid for by increased taxes on the wealthy, which will never happen. It will always happen to the middle class. Okay. The general election will take place on November 4th. So Unc says, I'm a firm believer that any immigrant, illegal or not seating in our American government seats is an enemy to foundational Americans. And you're right. Yeah. Immigrant or illegal. Yeah. They should not be in any place in government. Period. None of them have allegiance to America. They only want what America offers. Exactly. Yeah. It's one of those things. You want all the bennies, right? You want all the bennies, but you don't want to fight for Americans. You want to fight for everybody else that's here illegally. And see, the thing that they're leaving out, he's about illegal immigration. He wants to abolish ICE. It's crazy. And Miss Sassy, thank you for joining us. She says, Mondani can't be trusted. He can't be. Not at all. And he's got a good look. I've seen him. He's definitely a nice looking young man. He's actually the same age as my daughter. My daughter, she's going to be 33 in September. So I'm like, yeah, this person's old enough to be my kid. Still does not care about American citizens at all. Anybody coming in wanting universal child care, free public transit. And here's the deal. The public transit in New York is sad. I will say that it is really, really sad because as much money as they're given to fix the problem, and they do charge people to ride the subway. And I think there was something put in place. It was either the mayor of New York or the governor of New York because they want to encourage people to take the subway. They were actually taxing people more for driving in the city to encourage people to take the subway. No, the subways are dangerous. I mean, there was somebody who was set on fire last year. There's been rampant killings. There's homelessness down there because they don't want the homeless people on the street, so they send them down to, you know, the subway. But there's nowhere for them to really go. But why are we having homelessness in a city that's supposedly so wealthy? So it's I always find it fascinating. He's focused on some things that I'm like, okay, but why aren't you focused on homelessness? Why aren't you focused on, maybe opening up the insane asylums again so those people can get treatment or drug facilities so people can get treatment so they can be functioning members of society? You're not doing that. You're not talking about even the money that was going to the hotels for these illegals. See, yeah, even though there was some money clawed back, are these illegals still staying in those hotels in New York? Because that conversation kind of came and went. I don't know for anybody else, but that conversation came and went. And Unc says she actually said that her allegiance was to her Somalian people in us and in her country were working from inside the American government. Yeah. Yeah. While working from inside yeah. And we're talking about Elon Omar in this instance. That's who Unc is referring to. Yeah. That her allegiance was to her Somalian people. And it is. Her allegiance is not to America, nor will this individual's allegiance be towards America. It won't be. And see, a lot of these socialist programs, they sound really good. And it says, yeah, we're going to, increase taxes for the wealthy. That usually means anybody making over 100,000 a year. And most people do have to make over $100,000 a year just to survive in New York and live in a box that's less than 500 square feet. Let's just talk about that whole thing, right? But come on, really? Really, dude? I I don't see this working the way you're trying to work it. I just really see a lot of these policies that he's trying to set forth, and they are socialist policies. Guess what? Socialism never works because what happens is when you are not really focused on making sure that people have independent businesses, that, where people are coming and they're spending money, the money runs out because where are the taxes coming from? You can't do a lot of this stuff without federal governmental money. And as a taxpayer, I don't want any of my money going to New York for any of this stuff. And I don't want the wealthy in New York taxed so you can do any of this stuff. You got to figure out something else. Got to figure out something else. So Cuomo held a 40-point polling advantage at one point and just launched his field operation just last week. Despite having over $25 million in campaign money on hand from donors like former Mayor Michael Bloomberg, Mamdani, who the BBC sender described as a millennial outsider, fairly unknown until recently, gained significant notoriety when a viral clip of the mayoral debate showed him defending against moderators and the other candidates for not pledging to make Israel his first international visit if elected mayor. What do you need to do in Israel, sir? You are a mayor of a city. Israel has nothing to do with you. Seriously? Stop that. But they're saying that that's when it happened. That's when it went viral. But here's what concerns me. He's a fairly unknown until recently. That was a lot like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yeah, she was fairly unknown as well because she went through a cattle call to be a candidate. Yes, they did a cattle call to be a candidate. This is well-known information. Okay. She's an actress. She was a bartender, had nothing to do with politics, and then all of a sudden, she's a House representative. Stop that. But you can see how well she's been doing because she doesn't know what she's doing. And she's been there for a minute. She's been there for at least 3 cycles, at least 6 years. And she still doesn't know what she's doing. She'll be coming up on her third, term to be reelected next year. And I really pray that she's not reelected. But this person, the fairly unknown, is like, yeah. And nobody's even talking about Eric Adams. Like, he's not even a thing. And he's the current mayor. Like, he's not even on anybody's register or pulse to do anything. Because the Democratic Party left him because he's no longer useful to them. Because, he doesn't want to get caught up and get arrested for aiding and abetting criminal behavior. So newsflash, Mr. Mamdani, you better figure it out. Because if you're planning on aiding and abetting any illegal criminals in New York, you got another thing coming. You got another thing coming, sir. Tom Homan is coming for you. Okay? Just like he came for Eric Adams. You are either going to work with ICE or something. I'm just saying, it's going to be your career, period. Now, Cuomo has previously received significant criticism for his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic during his tenure as governor. Currently incumbent in New York is Mayor Eric Adams, who switched from a Democrat to an independent in early April. Yeah, he switched out because he had nowhere else to go. The Democrats wasn't dealing with him. He can be independent all he wants to. Nobody's going, bro. Eric, dust off the resume. Just dust it off. Because nobody's going to vote for you. Now, as far as this Mamdani person, he's got the nod. But like I said, I've got somebody in the Redemption Party that's going to be running for mayor. And I'm really excited that this person is going to be running as an independent for that seat. And it's she's an American for Americans. So I'm really, fingers crossed, looking forward to it. So this is how the media covered it. Media across the spectrum described Mamdani as a democratic socialist and the result as stunning. Okay. The New York Post, that leans right, focused much of its coverage on the failures of Cuomo. The New York Times, which leans left, wrote Mamdani's left-leaning policies and open socialist affiliation would represent a sharp directional change for New York City, and some of his proposals would be likely to face opposition from Governor Kathy Hochul and state lawmakers. No, it won't, because she's a socialist too. She just doesn't outright say it, but she's a socialist. She's, in my opinion, she's a treasonous traitor to this country. She is the one facilitating a lot of what's going on in New York and New York City and allowing sanctuary for people that are here illegally in her state. No, she is a failed governor completely. She's not going to oppose anything. She hasn't. That's laughable. Really? New York Times? That's laughable. Sorry. I gotta stop you on that one. Kathy Hochul, just like Pritzker, just like Waltz, just like Newsom. Anybody else I need to throw out there that just needs to go away? as governors of their state, yeah, it just needs to happen. Just needs to happen. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this, the Trump administration, the CNN dispute, and the impacts of the strikes on the Iranian nuclear sites. So we're going to, like I said, we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, and I'll see you on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Taking your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. I'm your host, Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and that commercial was brought to us by LifeWave. And to learn more about it, check out lifewave.com/Noni CMS LLC to learn more about that little patch that you saw in the commercial. So we're going to check out this the whole thing with the Trump administration, CNN dispute, impacts of U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. CNN. Oh, CNN. They never cease to give us what we need, right? So following the U.S. airstrikes targeting Iran's nuclear facilities at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, news outlets have reported contradictory assessments regarding the extent of the damage caused by the strikes. Now, I mean, I don't fault some of the outlets because people are going to have different perspectives, pictures, intel, and information, right? So you're not always going to get the full story, but the strikes happened, right? But to the extent of damage, sometimes you're not going to know that until later on. So CNN shared an early U.S. intelligence assessment from the Defense Intelligence Agency with a satellite image that suggested early findings are at odds with President Trump's repeated claims that the strikes completely and totally obliterated. It wrote that the strikes did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back by months. Okay, so because it's not scorched earth and it doesn't look like a cavern, you guys are just like, yeah, but it'll be back up in a couple months. But what if it isn't? What if he's able to talk to these people to, shut it down? We don't know that yet because it hasn't happened. But y'all, like I said, people just have a bloodlust and thirst for our country to be destroyed. Y'all do. Like, I think it's like you just wake up in the morning with hate on your mind for President Trump. So Trump responded saying that place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. He continued, when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told CNN, based on everything we have seen, and I have seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Our massive bombs hit exactly the right spot at each target and worked perfectly. The impact of those bombs is buried under a mountain of rubble in Iran. So anyone who says the bombs were not devastating is just trying to undermine the president and the successful mission. Now, CNN, this is how it was covered, that leans left bias, detailed the intelligence assessment suggesting the strikes did not destroy the core components of Iran's nuclear program. It highlighted the ongoing analysis of the damage and included sources who said that the impact was largely restricted to above ground structures. So, what I would like to know is, who are these sources? Now, you've got Pete Hegseth, who's the head of the Pentagon. Like, if he doesn't know what's going on, nobody knows what's going on. Really, CNN? So who are your sources? You can cite them. You don't have to be afraid to say who's giving you this information. Is it somebody in the Pentagon? Is it somebody in the military? Like, we need to know what you're talking about. Because see, it's this stuff. It's the wordplay, right? Because as you can see, it says it they use this wordplay that did not destroy the core components. What are the core components? Right? Because they can say that there's still a machine that, can be fixed in a couple of months, and that could be the core component, right? I'm just using that as an example. And if it's not completely obliterated, melted, destroyed beyond compare, when they already said it's going to set them back a couple of months, how do you know that? How do you know that? Where are you getting this information from? Is it coming out from outside of the Pentagon? CNN? To me, a lot of these news sources, they need to start citing their sources, because I don't believe anything they say anymore. Do you guys? I mean, I've been, doing this for a couple months, and I take the news from all sides so we can see the different sides of the media, and sometimes they contradict, sometimes they don't. But CNN, you've been known to embellish, just like Fox News has been known to embellish. So nobody's off. Nobody's, getting a pass on this. But this is very interesting. So Fox News on the right reported Trump's criticism of CNN and MSNBC's coverage of the strikes, accusing them of downplaying the success of the strikes. It's also highlighted Trump's assertion that the strikes were a spectacular military success. The Jerusalem Post Center reported on the White House's dispute of the early assessment, emphasizing the administration's insistence on the strike's effectiveness. Okay, so you're not saying it's not effective. They're just fighting and saying that it was effective, right? And they have every right to say that. They really have every right to say and acknowledge that. But I find it fascinating how CNN, you're the news. Just report the news. Just report the news. And whoever the source is, I just want to know who the source is, because it makes no sense. Now, I'm going to dip away from all sides, because I saw someone post an article. Well, it wasn't really an article. They posted some information going on in Los Angeles. So I had to check it out for myself. So apparently there were community groups calling for an eviction moratorium amid immigration raids across Los Angeles. So, of course, they're going into people's homes, taking them out of their houses, whatever, what have you. But they're calling for an eviction moratorium. So that means They don't want people removed or taken out of their homes if they have the inability to pay. Because see, people are afraid to go to work, right? Because they're here illegally. They are here illegally. So they're afraid to go to work. They don't want to get picked up by ICE, right? And here's the thing, ICE is not just randomly going around picking up people. There are specific people on their list that are known felons that have committed crimes either in their country or in our country. And those are the people that ICE is focused on removing and getting off the streets. Now, they have said if there are other individuals that are here undocumented and they just so happen to be in the vicinity of them, they're going to get picked up as well, as they should, because they're here illegally, right? They're still breaking the law. They still need to be deported and they'll get their due process. That's what the detention center is for. There is more than likely a, meeting center for court, which they can definitely do streaming. Nobody needs to be in a courtroom anymore. I don't know why people are getting all bent out of shape. And a lot of these need to start being done online, in my opinion, to just save our ICE agents from going through nonsense. But I wanted to play the video here because I want to make sure you guys can hear it. So I downloaded the video. So let me just play this so we can find out a little bit more.
They're hitting many families right here at home. It is leading the LA Tenants Union and other community leaders to call for a pause on evictions. Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda live in LaSalle Park with details. Carlos.
Well, that's right. There's big concern about renters. That's why the LA Tenants Unions and other community groups held this rally today, because they want the LA City Council to pass emergency protections for those people who might be impacted by the ICE raids. And they say, yes, that should include an eviction moratorium. ICE out of LA. They are demanding a stop to the ongoing immigration raids. ICE is under federal authority, but the LA Tenants Union says the city of Los Angeles should do something to protect people.
We as tenants have seen what's happening to our communities, where our families are being torn apart, where communities are scared to come out.
The union says renters make up more than 60% of LA residents, and many now face the fear of deportation. They say there's a deepening economic crisis fueled by COVID, fires, and now these ICE raids, and many people will not be able to pay their rent come next month. They're also asking the city council to put in place a rent freeze.
Small mom and pop businesses are getting hit hard because there is no sales. There is no movement for customers.
Landlords, however, worry another moratorium could crush them.
Over 85% of rental property owners in the city of Los Angeles are independent moms and pops who, for the most part, are already struggling to pay their bills.
During the COVID pandemic, there was a rent and eviction moratorium.
I understand that people are very scared, and rental property owners are very sympathetic to that. But as I said, property owners are very dependent on receiving timely rent payments just to make ends meet.
And as part of all of this, the LA Tenants Union is also calling for a citywide day of action, and that would be next Tuesday, July 1st.
Yeah. So how do y'all feel about that? They are out there protesting and demanding that there is a moratorium for paying rent and eviction, because there are people there illegally that don't want to go to work because they're scared they're going to get deported. So we're still supporting illegal immigration and demanding that there's a moratorium on rent. See, what the gentleman said was true, right? The mortgages still have to be paid on these buildings. The reason why people invested in these rental properties is so they could make a profit off of the people renting there. When the people don't pay rent there, I don't think they realize that, it just doesn't get paid. And if those individuals that are the lessors, if they go into default on their buildings, somebody else might come in and swoop up and buy them. Oh, yeah. See, that happened during COVID. And BlackRock and Vanguard came in and bought up everything. They own like 70% or something ridiculous of rental properties in the United States. I'm not talking about just houses, the rental properties. And I live here in Georgia, and they keep building these things called apartment homes, right? Where they'll lease you a home or they'll rent you a home, and you could buy it, I guess, if you wanted to. But if you can't afford to, we'll just lease it to you. So they're turning home ownership into something that's now renting. And that's not ownership, that's renting, that's leasing. But if California gets this, it will be devastating to their community. For at least the people that are investors, because they are not multi-million-dollar investors. So, in my opinion, and I know you guys don't have like show of hands out there, but in my opinion, do you think that this has been, do you think that BlackRock and Vanguard are paying for this right now? I think they are. I think they have put people up to this to demand this moratorium because, like I said, this happened during COVID and they went in and bought up that property. I think this is another way for Vanguard and BlackRock to continue to buy up properties. And see, these people right now, and they may not be in on it, but there might be somebody that is. When these properties are bought up and they are now owned by a major conglomerate, not a mom and pop, but a major conglomerate, you might see yourself on the street because they don't have to deal with a moratorium ever. But then again, will they demand money from the government, the federal government, to say, hey, we need a moratorium here. We need you guys to send us money so we can keep these people housed. Who stays housed? The people that are here illegally that they're using for slave labor, right? Because they're already using them for slave labor. They are. I'm not going to back down from that. And you're afraid to go to work because you don't want to get deported. Okay. Why are you still here then? Why don't you go back to your home country? Why are you here living in fear of being deported? Just self-deport. That's already been put on the table. They'll actually give you money to self-deport, which is crazy, but they will. They've already put that out there. Why don't you self-deport? That's my question. I think that's the bigger question that I have, because the longer individuals stay here illegally, it lets me know that there's something else afoot. That's just me. And so we did see the video, but it's definitely saying that Los Angeles, the community groups say too many families are living in fear amid raids across Southern California, and they are calling on Los Angeles City Council to take action. They shouldn't be living in fear if they're here legally. If they are here documented legally, there's no fear. This is just seriously crazy to me. So Rock is saying, if you are illegal, you don't have rights on our soil. Absolutely. Your free rides are over. Go back to your home countries, period. Because doing something like this does give them a free ride. To your point, Rock, it does. It's like, seriously, y'all are here. Here's another thing that's crazy. Weren't these people getting benefits? So that means the benefits have dried up, right? That means nobody must be getting cash aid anymore. Nobody's getting wealth, nobody's getting food stamps anymore. And nobody's getting that stipend enough for housing. Okay. So it's all coming out. It's all coming out. It's all coming out. And these people need to be deported. They need to be deported. So ICE, now you know where to go to get them. Keep up the good work. That's all I can say. So LA Tenants Union, SEIU 721, and the Coalition of Labor Union Employees joined forces for a press conference and rally on Olivera Street Tuesday morning. And it was interesting too. Like I was saying the other day, the face of deportation has predominantly been Latino, But there are other people that are here in this country illegally that are not Latino. There are Asians, there are people from Norway, Sweden, just all over the world, even parts of Africa. So it's not just that people that are, getting deported are of Latin descent. I need people to understand that it's not just one group of people. But it says they want the city council to pass emergency protections for people impacted by the raids. Really? They're impacted by the raids? That means you're here illegally. So you want the city council to participate in treason. Okay, because see, treason means if there is an invasion of our country, which there has been, you're giving aid and comfort to people. Or say, you know what, we won't even bring treason into it. How about we just say you're aiding and abetting criminals? That's even worse. And that puts everybody at risk. Okay. And that means everybody should go to jail. So if you're trying to get the city council to be involved in criminal activity, in aiding and abetting criminals, and on top of that, giving them aid and comfort. Yeah. No. This shouldn't even be a conversation. Like, I don't even understand people anymore. Like, this should not even be a conversation, but it is. The unions say renters make up more than 60% of LA residents. That's scary. That only 40% of LA residents actually own homes. Very scary. And many now face the fear of deportation, and many families may not be able to cover rent if a family member was taken into ICE custody, or if they have family members choosing to stay home from work out of fear. There shouldn't be any fear if they're here legally. And that's the problem. If you are here illegally, you need to go home. Give it up. Give it up. Go back to your home country and then apply the right way. But see, if you get caught, you shouldn't have the right to come back here. You shouldn't even be allowed. There shouldn't even be a conversation. And see, there's not. And a lot of people end up coming back here illegally, and that's what ICE is doing. Because see, a lot of the people that they are trying to catch were told they need to leave the country, and they just refuse to leave. So that's what's happening in your community, Los Angeles. I hope anybody from LA is listening to me right now. It might be a little bit early. I'll leave this up for longer, but I need you to listen. The reason why ICE is in your neighborhood in particularly is because these people already got their due process. They shouldn't be in the country, and they're refusing to leave. That's why ICE is there. So how about you go into your community and tell your community, hey, you guys need to get naturalized. You need to get your citizenship. You need to work on this, or, self-deport before ICE catches you. Because if they do catch you, you're not going to come back to this country. That's what you need to be spending your time doing. It says they add that the immigration raids are creating unnecessary fear, and there's a deepening economic crisis fueled by COVID, fires, and now ICE raids. No, this has nothing to do with ICE raids. Them living in fear. They're living in fear because they're here illegally and they're breaking the law, and they should be in fear. They should be. But if fear does not make them do right, which is self-deport, so they have the opportunity to come back here, and they're trying to get people to go along with illegal activity, that's wrong. So all of you wonderful activists out there, and they have the face of Latinos. I didn't see any Asians. I saw like a Black person out there, and I don't even know if that person is Black, because there are Latinos that have dark skin just like us, just like Black Americans, the Negroes. And I'm going to keep saying that. Make sure I use it all the time, since Obama tried to deem it as hate speech. I'm a Negro. Stop it. You picked the wrong N word to put as hate speech. Duh. But then again, you're not a Black American. You're a Kenyan. Yeah. You're an American because of your mother, not because of your father. You just happen to have melanated skin, but you are not a Negro. I just had to throw that in there, throw that out there for those in the back row. And some of these things that are happening right now are based on some of the policies from the Democratic Party. This is, look, it says the unnecessary fear, there's deepening economic crisis fueled by COVID. Yeah, it happened under Trump, the start of it, but who carried out the sweeping mandates? That would be Biden. Yeah. The fires. Yeah, that was the dereliction of duty between the governor and the mayor of Los Angeles, where the governor, he was kind of laughing about it and gleeful that people were, not going to be able to return back to the Palisades. And now they're going to be able to put up their wonderful 15-minute cities there and just create more slavery in California. And now the ICE raids. Yeah. Now the ICE raids, that is actually something that was put in by our Republican president. And that's at the federal level because we need to clean up this mess that was created by the last administration and prior administrations. Yeah. Just saying. It's the border is at its lowest it's been for people physically crossing over. But like again, administratively, we need to shut this down for 20 years. We need to. It's disgusting. So we know that many tenants will not be able to pay their rent come July 1st, said Kenia Akolar with the LA Tenants Union. Why? Because the militarization of our communities, this occupation of our communities, this terrorizing of our communities, and closed down businesses have taken away street vendors, have separated families, and then people cannot pay their rent. They have barely the minimum to survive. Then they need to go back to their home country. Period. Nobody's feeling sorry for you. Nobody's dropping a tear. 2 tears in a bucket. I think that's about all you're going to get from anybody in America. No one cares about your feelings. And this is no longer about your feelings. This is about survival. And those people need to go because they are unfortunately dragging down our economy and dragging down the United States. I'm going to say it. If nobody else is going to say it, I'll say it. Go home. This is not your home. It isn't. Figure it out. But you're not going to blame the federal government that's actually cleaning up this mess and say that everything's being militarized and feel sorry for us. Nobody feels sorry for you. If anything, I think this is fueling a fire in the belly of every American out here. You need to leave. This is over. Los Angeles is just a failed city, failed county. California is a failed state. I don't know anybody out there if y'all agree with me or not on that. California's a failed state. Completely. It is failed. I don't know if they're going to be able to recover. And I don't feel sorry for them at all. I do not feel sorry for you. I do not feel sorry for any of these communities saying, well, they're separating families. Well, they shouldn't. They should take everybody and make sure everybody leaves, children included. Even the ones that were born here, because guess what? They're not citizens because nobody's naturalized. If you came here illegally and you had a baby over here, your kid is under the jurisdiction that you're under. Period. Hey, Dr. C, thank you so much for reposting the stream. I appreciate you. You don't belong here. That's why it's not working out. So a little side note, this is kind of what happens with sin. When you sin and you do the wrong things happen to you. And they continue to happen to you. You're like, what's going on with my life? Everything was so good. Because people were in sin, supporting your sinful behavior. And you got used to it. You did. You got used to people supporting your sinful nature. Now people are not supporting that, and they are calling you to do the right thing. This administration, they've called you to do the right thing to the point where they will pay to send you back to your country of jurisdiction and allow you the opportunity to come back here the right way. So you can work legally in the country. So you can live legally in the country, but you don't want to do that. You want people supporting your sinful behavior. That's got to stop. Needs to put a stop to it. You need to do the right thing. If you don't want to do the right thing, that's totally fine. See your way out completely. And no one will feel sorry for you. No one will really care, honestly. I think the only reason we care right now is because we want you gone. And guess what? There will be people that can do those jobs. But the question is, do the owners, the business owners, do they want to pay American citizens to do those jobs? Or are they used to just, taking advantage of other people and their status, right? To treat them as slaves and pay them not even a livable wage. Is that what we're doing? Is that okay? Yeah, see, I'm saying the quiet part out loud, all of it. Because this needs to stop. Nobody wants to do this anymore. We really don't. We really don't want to do it anymore. Now, I do want to see this. It says SCOTUS allows Trump administration to deport migrants to third countries. So the third world countries, is that what we're talking about? So the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Trump administration on Monday, allowing the deportation of immigrants to third countries they are not originally from. Oh, got it. So this is where they were like building all the prisons, I guess, in the different places. So in a 6-3 decision, temporarily supports the Trump administration's efforts to expedite deportations by sending immigrants to third countries. I think they meant to say third world countries or third countries, basically meaning the countries that these people are not from. I guess that's what we're calling it. Kind of weird. Even if they have no connection to these places, DVD versus U.S. Department of Homeland Security stemmed from attempts to deport a select group of detainees to a third country due to the prospects of harm in their home countries. So the Supreme Court ruling allows for the continuation of the legal challenge against third country deportations, but also allows the Department of Homeland Security to proceed with the removal flights until a final resolution is made. So it just kind of, they're just using it as a buffer, a temporary buffer, because that's really sad that they can't go back to their own home countries because they might get injured. That means they might get killed. You know what I'm saying? They might, whatever country they came from, they were like, yeah, we're just going to, end you. We're not going to keep you alive, right? And if that's the situation, then we as the United States, we're sending them to other countries and we're still paying for this. Y'all, we are still paying for this. I just want everybody to know none of this is free. It's on our tax dollar. Y'all, immigration, it's a hot button issue for me. So for context, President Trump has made immigration control a key priority of his second term, promising mass deportations, which is good. Agreements between the Trump administration and other countries permit the acceptance of non-citizens as part of this effort. So keynotes, Justice Sonia Sotomayor called the ruling inexcusable, and along with 2 other liberal justices, warned that in matters of life and death, it is best to proceed with caution. Meanwhile, DHS Secretary Tricia McLaughlin celebrated the ruling as a major win for the safety and security of the American people. Yeah, because see, these wonderful judges that we have, and I'm glad y'all are there, but y'all are safe from a lot of this stuff. You're not exposed to a lot of this day-to-day stuff. You're not living in downtown Los Angeles, okay? You're living it somewhere in a gated community where you're protected, from a lot of what's going on. And so for Sonia Sotomayor to say this is inexcusable, do you want them sent back to their home country where they can be executed? You know what I'm saying? It even says, they're detainees to a third country due to the prospects of harm in their home countries. Look, the president can be like, look, we're dropping them off anyway. Do with them what you will. We don't care. Do with them what you will. Is that what you want, Sotomayor? Is that what you want? Because I'm all for that. Let them go back to their home country and let their home country deal with them as they want to deal with them. But to that, what if they don't deal with them and then those people end up coming right back here? That's the other part. They need to be removed from the United States, period, and locked up somewhere. I don't like that it's on my dime, but apparently we have to do something because they need to leave here. But these other countries, they need to stop this revolving door. And here's my suggestion, if this gets to the Trump administration. My suggestion is this. I think what you should do, and this would be awesome, is start taking money from these countries, because we do send these countries money to help with their citizens. We do. We send money to Honduras. We send money to different parts of Africa. We send money everywhere, but we send it so they can help with their citizens. How about we start taking that money back? For every person that has come here that we have to deport or deal with, how should we say, we're going to stop the faucet? So if we're sending somebody $5 billion and it's costing us $3 billion to take care of these people, then that country only gets $2 billion from us. And the other $3 billion needs to come back to us so we can take care of their nonsense, their mess, and they'll never get it back again. That's what I'm talking about. See, this will stop a lot of that nonsense because, they think they can send people here on our dime and have us take care of them on our dime and still give them money. Like, no, the money needs to stop. I guarantee you stop that money from flowing. Oh, yeah, you will see a lot less immigration or illegal immigration happening. Guarantee it. Let's do that. Let's get that happening. So how the media covered it. Newsweek, they reported this as a critical victory for the Trump administration, emphasizing the importance of immigration control in the president's agenda. The outlet also highlighted the ongoing legal challenges to third country removals. So Salon, which leans left, emphasized Justice Sotomayor's dissenting remarks and included criticism of the National Immigration Litigation Alliance, which called the order horrifying. In contrast, Just the News, that leans right, highlighted the lift of the nationwide injunction that had previously restricted the deportations to third countries, featuring a quote from Representative Nathaniel Moran praising the Supreme Court for getting it right. It's interesting. They're like, oh, this is horrible. How about what if he just decided to, okay, we catch him and we're just going to throw him and we're just going to behead people and kill him. Or we're just going to line them up in a firing squad and kill them. That's not happening. They're still alive and they're being deported because if they were sent back to other countries, like I said, either they would get killed or they would end up back here because these other countries don't care about illegal immigration. They do not care. They do not care if these people return. But like I said, for every person that returned, I would remove millions of dollars to the point where we should get to zero at sending any of these other countries money for anything if their people are coming here illegally. That should be the bar. I like that. That's what I'm calling. That's what I'm talking about. So for Sotomayor to say that this is a horrifying order, see, you're the type of justice that I need removed because you're being an activist. You're not being a judge. Horrifying? Those are your feelings. This is not about your feelings. It's about the Constitution and about what's right. Period. I don't need your humanitarian input. If you want to be an activist, be an activist. Great. Don't be a judge. One or the other, but you can't do both. And this is what's been happening. And it happens on the right too. I'm not saying it's just her. Happens on both sides. But we need no. I'm glad that was a good win. That was a good win. But it needs to go further. We need to turn off the money that these people are receiving, because they shouldn't be getting it. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and I will see you guys on the other side.
At All Sides, we believe unbiased news doesn't exist. To get more clicks and make more money, media outlets often report news with a left, right, or sensational slant, either to suit their own agenda or because by telling us what we want to hear, we'll come back for more. Several news outlets in the center do a good job of portraying both sides equitably, but for the most part, American news media is biased. Bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. The key is to get multiple perspectives. But making matters worse, social media and internet search results are heavily filtered, showing us the most popular opinion or results that match our preferences and make us happy. That means we're all living in filter bubbles, where we're only exposed to viewpoints we already agree with, making us less informed and less tolerant of different people and ideas. At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it? All Sides has created a patented, fair, transparent process to rate the media bias of hundreds of news outlets and writers. We assess each media source and rate them as far left, center, lean right, or far right, allowing you to quickly identify different perspectives. All Sides is constantly evolving our media bias engine. The more you participate, the better our ratings will be, and the better our news coverage will be. Go to allsides.com to get involved.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host of Unfiltered Vision News. So we're going to look at this next news story. We're going to switch course and look in the health sector, see what's going on. So it says the Coalition of Health Insurance Companies pledge coverage reform. Now, you can kind of tell that somebody did copy paste, because there shouldn't be two ofs. There should only be one, not two, right? Somebody got a little passionate and moved a little bit fast on this one, I can tell. So a coalition of health insurers in the U.S. pledged to reform the prior authorization process, which has been criticized for delaying care and creating complications. No, it's done on purpose. Please stop that. That's a nice way of saying, yeah, we're just going to hold out just long enough, and hopefully nothing will happen to you before, that authorization gets approved. But, until then, good luck. Like, that's what they've done. That's sad but true. So the details: the Center for Medicine and Medical Services Administrator, Dr. Mehmet Oz, Mehmet Oz, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, and Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. outlined 6 key changes that participating insurers are promising to make. These include standardizing the electronic prior authorization process, reducing the number of services requiring authorization, honoring existing authorizations when patients change insurance in the midst of treatment, and other reforms. Health insurers in this group, including United Healthcare, Cigna, Humana, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and Aetna, cover nearly 257 million Americans. Wow. Insurers hope to implement the reform by 2027. Well, that'll be good. I think that'll be well. So, for context, prior authorization is a policy that requires insurers to approve medical care before it's covered. A survey by the American Medical Association showed 93% of physicians in 2024 reported delays in patient care while waiting for authorization from insurance companies. Like I said, they're just like, yeah, good luck. Hopefully you'll still be here with us when you get this treatment. And that's what I'm saying. It's that whole pre-authorization thing. It's not there for anything but to make delays. That's why it's there. They could just, yep, we'll approve it. We'll get it done tomorrow. No, they want people sicker. And it's disgusting. I mean, I got to call it what it is. Insurance, I don't like the whole insurance thing. I think there should be, if we have anything for each state, they take our taxes anyway. Just take a percentage of those taxes and put it into like a little healthcare fund. And then when people need to go to the doctors get paid directly out of that fund that you already have. Period. There's your insurance plan. Done. But we've put all of these bump stops in the way. Because you got to remember, all of these companies that were listed, they're also getting kickbacks from the government. And I'm not talking about with Medicaid and Medicare. No, it's outside of that. They get subsidies from the federal government just for existing. Okay. So they are making money hand over fist. Then they get companies to have their employees buy into these policies. So they may give them more money. Then when you go to the doctor's office, you got to pay co-pays. You've got to pay extra for any other services. You've got pre-authorization. Look, they are about the money. They are not about helping you to survive. We have a sick care system, period. And they are about milking that sick care system. Over 257 million Americans. I think there's only a little bit over 350 million of us. So y'all own the lion's share of people. Really? No, I'm sorry. Are we a billion or a million? I have to look up our U.S. population. But I want to say our population isn't that much bigger. And with people always screaming, there's no health care, that's a large number of people on health care. If we're counting people. Just saying. So this is how the media covered it. Fox on the Right reported that Oz compared this group of insurance to the biblical phrase, the meek shall inherit the earth. NPR, which is left biased, quoted a health policy professor at the University of Pittsburgh who brought up the proof of work Medicaid requirements proposed by the Trump administration, saying, I don't think it would be unfair to say that we're replacing one set of burdens for another if those requirements are implemented. And Newsweek, which is center bias, included RFK Jr.'s statement pitting patients and their doctors against massive companies was not good for anyone. And they're not pitting anybody. Okay, understand these companies are trash. I'm going to say it, they're trash. I've dealt with them. I've worked in a pediatrics office, and these companies are trash, and they've only gotten worse because of the stronghold that they have within the federal government and the supplements and the subsidies that they get from the federal government outside of Medicare and Medicaid. Now, this whole thing with the proof of work for Medicaid, yeah, people need to be working to get off of assistance. Okay, so people aren't on assistance for the whole time. But then again, that's where state insurance should kick in. Then that way people don't have to be bothered with United Healthcare or Cigna or Humana or any of these insurance companies. They don't care about human life. They do not care. And I do not care if any of these companies come for me. You're horrible. I've seen what you do to people. I've seen how people, they'll be on a medication for years and then they'll get a call saying, oh, well, we don't cover that prescription anymore. What? Or you have to get the generic version of it that doesn't really work at all, that they've never taken and has worse side effects. Yeah. You're horrible at your jobs. Insurance companies in this country need to be abolished. And we need to just basically use our tax dollars to pay the doctors to do their jobs and just be doctors and not bureaucrats. And dealing with the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies that want to be in their back pocket to do what they want them to do, which is to not take care of people. They want to keep people just alive enough and just sick enough that they continue to need them. And that's disgusting. But that's who you are. That is who you are. That's how we got here. I don't feel sorry for any of the insurance companies. They need to be, like I said, they need to be abolished. They're disgusting. Let's see. We want to get into some more of this news. So the FBI shifts resources to major U.S. cities for possible Iran threats. Yeah, this is something that I've heard, and they were talking about sleeper cells, right? Because there are some Iranians here. So during all that mass migration that we had over the past few years, some people have crossed over our borders and are here on our soil. So let's check this out, because it's safe. Sad. We got to keep our head on the swivel here in our own country, but it is what it is. So, so the FBI reportedly shifting resources in New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Philadelphia towards Iran and domestic threats and away from immigration enforcement. Really? So we trade one for another? I don't like it. We need to do both. Cash, you need to figure it out, bro. I don't care who you need to hire, but we need the immigration enforcement because that's where they are. They're hiding. You need to do both. Simultaneously, you need to hit it from both sides, because if you don't, all of these people, they're just going to continue to hide and continue to live off of the soil. Like, my blood pressure. Okay, so the agency has also told field offices to be in close communication with the Department of Defense and the National Guard too, because military sites could be targets as well. Exactly. So Dr. C says, yes, the insurance companies are dumpster trash. Okay, they definitely function for profit over health. You are not wrong. They do. That's all it's about for them. That's all they want, is they want the profits. But back to this nonsense. Come on. Y'all need to do better. Saying that they're going to, take the threats, they're going to focus on the domestic threats and away from immigration. See, this is what people are going to hear. That you're going to start taking the heat off of this and they're going to start acting crazy. No, you do both. And I want to say you triple down on both, because now we got the military. Look, you better find these knuckleheads that are hiding, that are literally hiding amongst us. Oh, a source close to the White House told News Nation the Trump administration is actively monitoring sleeper cells, individual spies waiting to be activated by Iran. I think there is a reasonable concern here, but I also know that the Islamic Republic wants to survive. And if they pick this kind of fight with the United States, I cannot imagine that this is going to sit well with Donald Trump, says Jonathan Schasner, former terrorism finance analyst at the U.S. Treasury. So I don't think it's going to sit well with the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. I mean, you got a bunch of no nonsense guys. They're not going to take this lightly, but I think the regime understands this. So they're probably going to have to tread carefully here. So, along the New York City and Washington, D.C., law enforcement has beefed up its presence at religious sites, cultural institutions, and diplomatic sites. Now, everybody should definitely have their head on a swivel. And it's sad, but we have to, because a lot of what Iran deals with is they hit soft targets, schools, churches, grocery stores, just places where people are just out and about, not really on their guard, right? They're not going to hit places where there's a lot of people with guns, right, to defend themselves. So, I mean, you could try it here in Georgia or Florida because they got open carry here. So men and women are packing over here. So if you act crazy up in here, it might not go well for you, right? But if you're in New York or Illinois or California, you might be able to hit some targets because people there don't really carry guns like that. They just don't. And they're sanctuary cities too. So, I mean, at that point, it is what it is, right? It just is what it is. So the NYPD told, so ICE arrests 11 Iranian nationals in 48 hours. Well, that's good. So the NYPD told News Nation they will be on heightened alert for domestic retaliation, which they have been for a while, securing soft targets with a presence where possible. But they are being vigilant that the major threat is still lone wolf style attacks. During the last year's presidential campaign, federal prosecutors charged an operative of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard and 2 U.S. based people with planning to surveil and assassinate President Trump. Yeah, I remembered hearing about that. And that was interesting because a lot of people were like, yeah, he might get killed from somebody from Iran. And at the time, it didn't make much sense because we're like, what's going on with Iran? Now that we're here, right? And he's, kind of been goat roped into this whole situation between Iran and Israel, trying to get them to settle down. And he's done the Iranian strikes. It's like now, if something were to happen to Donald Trump, it would be like, yeah, it might be retaliation. So, now he's got to have his, I mean, I know they're already protecting the president, but now it's like even more heightened because if something happens, they can blame it on Iran. And that's the scary part, in my opinion. That is the scariest part. We don't want to see that. I don't ever want to see a president, anything harm come to them. I might not agree with everything that they're doing, but I would never want to see harm come to anybody who's our world leader, because, there are other countries that just want to exercise their dominance over the United States as if we're some type of prize to topple and dominate. Yet those same people want to be over here and have the benefit of our laws, our great country, the freedoms that we have. But at the same time, they want to destroy our government. It's really crazy, the mentality. It's like, I hate you, but I want to live in your house. It's like, what? Like, doesn't make a lot of sense. So I know you guys have been hearing me ranting and talking about the news. I typically do have a guest on Wednesday. I thought I was going to have someone come on the show today, but does not look like that is going to happen. So, this is our Women in Wellness Wednesday. And like I said, typically I will have someone on the show. And since I don't, I am going to take the time to do this segment and just highlight some people that I know that I've met maybe on the app here, like Dr. C, who is in certain spaces and different things and doing well in her community. April Showers, she's another individual who's helped to arrange the city, which I love, and learning more about. Let's see, Miss T, that's another one. Sway Me, and she's been on our program before, and I really appreciate a lot of the women that have really given me the support for this show that I'm doing. Definitely appreciate you guys. And Women in Wellness Wednesday is about highlighting women in our community and really looking at wellness from not just the mental, physical, spiritual, but also looking at political wellness, because that is something that we all need, men and women, but women in particular, because we are driven by our emotions, right? That we're emotional creatures. It's cool. It's just who we are. But a lot of times in that, it can take its toll on us emotionally, because we are there for others, right? Our families, our friends. And sometimes in that, especially being in this political arena, emotional politics can be very draining. As you can see with, me reading through a lot of the articles that you saw, it can get very emotional. And it's remembering to focus when you get emotional, because that's the point, right? The point is to draw you in emotionally. The point is to make sure that you're making emotional decisions politically and not really stopping to think things through, not really stopping to settle your mind and your emotions and say, okay, long term, what does this decision look like in the next 5 to 10 years? Would I want to live with the decision that I make today or vote for today in the next 5 to 10 years? And that should be the question that you ask yourself. And when I'm talking about political wellness, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making sure you are not making a long-term decision in an emotional state. Because right now, we're not at war, thank goodness. President Trump is doing the best he can with the conflict between Iran and Israel so that they come to a ceasefire and a resolve. And we still have the Ukraine situation going on with Russia. So there's lots of conflicts, and there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. If you are a Christian, you know that. That's just biblical. So Unc is saying if an individual pays for whatever insurance coverage to whatever provider they choose, those insurance companies shouldn't tell you what doctors you can use. Oh, okay. Your insurance on, right? Whether it's a choice of doctors in their system or a holistic doctor outside the system, insurance should pay for that coverage. And you're exactly right. It's like, because it's almost like, why do I have the insurance if I can't use it? And this is something else, right? That would fall, interestingly enough, under political wellness, because that is a very good thing to bring up. We don't think about the long-term effects of these decisions. And with the insurance companies saying, oh, yeah, of course, we'll deal with the pre-authorizations better. Of course, we're going to help people. No, you're not. You've been around for decades, and you have a foothold in our federal government. Here's my thing. What I'd like to see is I would like to see some of the supplements that they get from the federal government removed. If you're going to be an insurance company, live on your own. And, you're not dealing with Medicaid and Medicare because those are, federally funded programs, right? So you should have nothing to do with them. Doctors' offices should be able to accept whatever insurances they want, including Medicare, Medicaid, right? Because they don't pay as much as insurance plans. These insurance plans, yeah, they should be able to stand on their own without getting supplemented by the government, which they are. So Dr. C is saying, it's so true that a woman's work is never done. We give and give and give many times minus reciprocation. So many of us are here for it because we comprehend the importance, necessity of legacy building in our families. Exactly right. Yeah, we push through. And, being a mom and sometimes being a friend and, who as women, we are many people, we're many things to many people. Sometimes it's very thankless. Sometimes we don't take the time out to thank one another, for what we do. And I did find myself even on vacation, with some people that were working, that were servers. And I just remembered, I just told them, thank you for everything that you're doing today. Thank you for making this trip wonderful for me and my family. Thank you for, making sure the other guests are having a good time on this cruise that we were on. Sometimes we have to stop and realize who we are to one another and stop and recognize and say thank you. Yeah. And that's part of wellness is also, really getting in there and remembering to stay well in all aspects of our life, mentally, physically, spiritually, and politically. We have to stay well because I think, there is unfortunately an illness politically in our country. And it is biblical because even in the Bible, it tells us that things that are wrong, people will consider right. And things that are right, people will consider those things wrong. And they will battle against one another. And that's where we are. We are there. And we have to remember right is right and wrong is wrong. It is what it is because, see, with the truth, you don't have to justify it. It is what it is. That's it. That is it. But when you are trying to justify a lie, you have to continue to make excuses to make it right. And even after you think you've made it right, it's still on sinking sand because it wasn't the truth in the first place. Like we were talking about the moratorium, right, on evictions and how people are fighting, to keep people here that know that they're here illegally and they're doing the wrong thing. So you're trying to support people in doing the wrong thing. You should be supporting them and telling them, hey, you probably need to self-deport before ICE detains you so that you can come back here legally with your head held high and live amongst your community legally. That's the right thing to do. Is it the easiest thing to do? No. but it's the right thing to do. And that's where, I really see us at right now. You know, President Trump, he's doing the best he can to do the right thing by people. And some people don't like it, right? They're upset about it. They're angry. They're yelling and fussing. He dropped the F-bomb. I was like, woo, okay. Because he's tired of seeing people not just do the right thing. That's all he's asking. Just do the right thing so we can move on with our lives. But there are some people that want power and control, and they know by doing the wrong things, it will help them stay in what they think is power. So with that, we're going to end today's program. Thank you so much for joining me here on Wednesday for our Women in Wellness Wednesday. And I will see you guys tomorrow. We're going to have our Mighty Men Thursday. So fingers crossed, I guess we'll be able to make it. But thank you, as always, for everybody that's joined the stream and participating. I love, the interaction that we're having during the program. So please keep it up. And again, I appreciate every single one of you. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one. Oh, before I go, wait a minute. I got one more comment coming in from Unc. He says, I think the America's government needs to figure out a quicker way of processing individuals wanting to be legal in America. Taking 5 to 10 years or longer in some people's cases is ludicrous, and America must create a better system, especially in today's technical world. I hear what you're saying, but on the flip side of that, I can understand why it does take so long, because they have to be vetted, and vetting means going back to their home country and getting information on them and making sure that they're not criminals, right? Making sure that they are who they say they are and they are not just sneaking in. So, yeah, could it be less than 10 years? It could be. I definitely see, 10 years is a long time, and it would be good if it was shorter. But again, I can understand why it does take so long, because they want people to come here for the right reasons. But this is why and now we have all this illegal immigration. We want people to do the right things. We really do. So I definitely understand your argument, Unc, that it needs to be more streamlined, right? Because with the technology we have, we should be able to look up somebody and their whole life from birth in 5 minutes, right? With all the technology we have. But it's making sure that that's being done the right way, right? And there's no illegal processes happening in that. He says, in today's technology, it shouldn't take 10 years to vet somebody. It shouldn't. in today's technology. And maybe with some of these updates that they're making within the federal government to have the systems talk to one another, like Social Security and the IRS and those different things, maybe that may help part of the process, to speed up the process. So again, we're going to end this live stream, and you guys stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.